kind of give us a rundown there?
I don't know. Am I supposed to do that? I kind of like that no one knows right now. I would say that we are cross-training. I would say that guys are in multiple positions, not in just one position. But I would say that for the most part, what you guys probably saw in this spring is probably about the same as it is now. But, if anything, we've learned anything at times, it's about being multiple. It's about being versatile. And so, we have a lot of, I guess, quote unquote, contingent plans. And then at the end of the day, we're always trying to find a way to get the best players on the field, So it's not about that position, and say, hey, best players play. And obviously that's very, that can change, from an availability standpoint, week to week, injuries and other dynamics. But we feel pretty good on the way these guys are working and the expectations that come with being versatile.
What has allowed Jamison Williams to kind of, I believe, move into that top group? I mentioned him as up there with Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. What has made him give him that jump?
Well, I'd say he's a year older. I would say that he has an opportunity to build a portfolio over time. He'll even tell you he could do better than he currently is, and that mindset's really important. He's trained well. He's had a great off season. Academics are coming up. All of that plays a part. And again, I think the body of work has now continued to compile, and we have ways to go. But I think he's doing a good job in that light. And I think that he's not the only guy, but he's doing a good job.
Next up, Dan Hope with 11 Warriors and Austin Ward on deck. Dan?
Brian, you guys have already taken the black stripes off for you of freshman receivers. So, I imagine that's a good sign for how they're doing. In terms of, their playing time, if one of those guys was to emerge as one of your three best receivers, would you have any qualms about, putting them in the starting lineup week one, or is just kind of whoever's the best guy for week one?
Yeah, I think that, there's multiple conversations. I think that anytime guys are out there playing, it's not always just about, what I think, although it's probably the majority of it, but Coach Day and the rest of the offensive staff with Coach Wilson will be a big part of that. But at the end of the day, the film doesn't lie. Guys that earn it, they earn it. Nothing's given. And we'll kind of, keep approaching it that way. We always want the best guys on the field. But I can't emphasize enough, being able to play multiple roles and understand concepts, not just your position, will be very important this year, probably more than ever. So whether it be on special teams, rushing a punt or holding up a punt or changing, being a gunner now, or whether it be on offense, I think, in defense. So, I think at the end of the day, a lot of the cream will rise to the crop, and you have to be able to play multiple positions no matter where on the field.
And you talked about Chris and Jamison both being in that top group. I know they both played that Z position before. Do you have a preference to keep those guys both at that Z role, or do you have any issues at all with moving one of them to X if that gets them both on the field?
I have no issues moving anybody to any position if it gets the right people on the field. So again, we're still Ohio State. We still have a lot of guys that are not just in the first, second, third, fourth guy. We're always trying to be at least 2 deep, if not more. I'd argue that we'd probably be closer to 3 deep than ever. Again, it's a lot of kudos to Coach Mick and the staff and Coach Day's, our culture here and the expectations at which we try to uphold day in and day out. So no qualms with moving anybody anywhere if they're able to play at a high capacity, a high level at different spots.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep.
Next up, Austin Ward with Letterman Row and Bill Rabinowitz on deck. Austin?
Brian, I think right when you guys got back, maybe in August, there were a picture or two of Cam Babb out there and running routes and making a catch. After everything he's been through, where is he at physically, and how much could he maybe help your group this year?
Yeah, I think Cam Babb is a special individual. Anytime he's around the team or in the room or on the field, he's going to bring a dynamic that is special. I think that, he's a great young man. He's a great football player, an even better young man. And I think that, we're blessed to have him here. Great to see him out there catching footballs, making plays. Yeah, I'm very excited to see what his future holds.
And for you guys at your position specifically, when the pads come on, how is that different than what you get to do one-on-one or 7-on-7 that you've got to do over the last 6 weeks or so?
Yeah, I mean, right now, like Coach Combs said, I'm sick of all this basketball BS on the field. So once we put pads on, it actually becomes football. So we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to kind of that marking, really, I think the next step in progression, taking this thing up to another level, the closest we've been to playing in a long time. So it is special. It is a big day moving forward, and we're looking forward to that day here soon.
Next up, Bill Rabinowitz with the Columbus Dispatch and Bill Landis on deck. Bill?
Hi, Brian. Along those same lines, what do you think you're going to find out tomorrow and the days after that you couldn't find out without being in pads and now being in full contact? And how much full contact do you think you'll have starting tomorrow?
I think we'll have a good amount. I think we'll probably build throughout the week and over the next couple of weeks. But what will we find out? I would say the best team is always the team that blocks the best, tackles the best, and is the toughest. So it's really hard to get any of those without pads. I think starting Wednesday, we'll really get a feel for what kind of football team we are currently and maybe where we need to go and we need to focus on. But like I said, I think it's the closest we'll have become to playing real football. And again, the focus being on growth over time and making sure these guys are good and healthy and safe and doing it the right way and not being in a rush to get where we're going to be. But we'll have a good plan when it comes to that. But again, very exciting because we're throwing pads on. We're playing some real football.
And about Chris Olave, until the Big Ten reversed its decision, it looked like his last play as a Buckeye would be the last play in the Fiesta Bowl. The fact that it's not going to be, that he has a chance to have another season, do you sense in him just how much he's looking forward to this year? And what have you seen in terms of his growth?
Yeah, I think that, Chris was always on the side of being a Buckeye and graduating. The talk of leaving, I don't think was anywhere inside this building. It was more outside the building. And I think that, his ability and desire to do something great here, be a part of something great here, and really get his degree was not emphasized more than ever than after his last game down in Arizona. So really excited for him. I think there's definitely a lot of challenges for him, just learning, become more of a leader and grow. You're still talking about a guy that was, going into is in his third year and coming out of Cali. I don't think he would have thought maybe in 3 years I'm going to have a decision on whether I'm going to be at Ohio State or leaving early. So his growth has been phenomenal. Really, as a person, I love coaching him. We love having him in the room, and I'm really excited that he gets a chance to play, this fall and not waiting further down the road to do that. So he's doing a great job. He's maturing. Again, biggest focus being leadership in the room, and I think he's really embodied that and has done a great job.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep.
Next up, Bill Landis with The Athletic and Nathan Baird on deck. Bill?
Hey, Brian. You talked about Jamison earlier, and I think we all got a really good feel for his speed last year, especially in that long touchdown that he had. How was he built on top of that sort of – that looks like an elite trait that he has, but how was he taking that and kind of built on that?
Yeah, I think developing as a route runner, I think developing as far as a mindset and understanding of what he's trying to get accomplished. I think, trying to operate in a world of what if I wasn't that fast, and if you're able to embody that approach, a really special player can come out of that. He already has a physicality that a lot of receivers don't have. He loves the contact piece, always making sure with speed and with blocking that we're under control and we're in, operating with purpose is always something we're going to continue to work on at any level. But I think he's really embodied that. I think he really understands, being crafty and really wanting to be some of the best, ever in his position and really working that way. And again, I think a lot of it too for him, may be organizing off the field stuff so he's better on the field. It's just being a younger athlete and maturing into an older athlete. So he's had a great amount of growth. He still has a way to go, but I think he's just not trying to rely purely on his ability to run, but also operate in a world where what if I couldn't run and still get really good at his craft.
And I feel like every offseason we wonder about what kind of role Demario might end up having. Just based off what you've seen over these last few weeks, how do you anticipate him fitting into the receiver rotation? And do you see any tailback snaps in his future?
Yeah, I think Coach Day always has a great plan when it comes to guys with versatile skill sets. And I think that he's definitely one of those guys that has that. And I think that from a week-to-week standpoint, how we could take advantage of those matchups that he provides will be pretty important.
Next up, Nathan Baird with Cleveland.com and Spencer Holbrook on deck. Nathan?
Hey, Brian. When we talked to you back in the spring, you were pretty enthusiastic about the concept of Garrett moving and being more of a slot guy this year. Just curious if the offseason and the way that it developed, did it affect that transition at all? And what do you think for him right now as far as growing into that position more?
I think he's done a pretty good job. I think his ability to continue to grow will be most important. Understanding that week one doesn't look like getting a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
Can you go mute, Jerry? It might help.
I want to turn that down, the external one down. All right, sorry about that, Coach.
Okay, is that any better? So, yeah, I think that at the end of the day, I think when you have limited time, it probably did have an effect. I think we've done a pretty good job. He's done a very good job with not allowing it to show up too often. I think if anything, we'd probably be further down the road, with guys, whether it be a younger athlete just coming in or whether it be a guy that's changed positions. He's not the only one. And I think that, the more time, the better. But I think he's done a great job. I think at the end of the day, what we talked about earlier, being versatile will be the most important. His ability to be outside for a full year last year, to move inside this year, gives him a skill set and a general understanding of the offense to do either. So proud of where he's at. He knows he's got to keep pushing further. A lot of more nuances being inside, but I think he's handled it a pretty good job.
Next up, Spencer Holbrook with Letterman Row and Joey Kaufman on deck. Spencer?
Hey, Brian, what has Jackson Smith-Njigba shown you that makes you think that he'll be ready to contribute right off the bat in week one?
I think what has he shown me? I think that, at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing that we're looking for guys to be on the field is consistency. I think he's done a pretty good job. I think a lot of guys have done a really good job with that. I think that at the end of the day, those that, we can trust to do their job. If you're on the field, we really don't have any worries about you making certain plays or being able to make the play. It's more about, when you don't get the ball, are you in great position? Do we feel you in the run game? Are you getting your job done when you're, at the point of attack? And I think that, roles that are earned on special teams, all of these things will play a part. I think that consistency is more important than ever. I think the ability to not make silly mistakes, as we see on Saturdays and Sundays, is more prevalent than ever. So I think the guys that are the most consistent at this point will probably see themselves, on the field a lot more and being worked in certain ways. I think there's a big push of trust, and I think that we've always had great trust around here, but more times than ever, with how much we've been removed from our current situation, that'll play a big part.
Next up, Joey Kaufman with the Columbus Dispatch and Jeremy Birmingham on deck. Joey?
Brian, I know obviously with spring practices and some of training camp being limited, you maybe didn't get to see as many reps from guys like Garrett Wilson in the slot. But I guess, do you have any sense on what's the biggest advantage you would provide there?
For Garrett Wilson?
The slot, yeah.
Yeah, I think that having a guy that's very dynamic in the inside is very important. I think a guy that's really smart, though, his ability to identify space and work around linebackers, and also be tough enough to block linebackers and be able to work in space, but also take the seam is really important. I think the guy inside, more than maybe in any other position, maybe asked to do more things. But I think, again, it's just, what do you want to do there defensively? Who do you want to put on him? Do you want to put a linebacker in there and then have him have to guard him? Or do you want to bring a nickel player in and then you get to say you're tougher than him when running the football and being able to cover him. So it's just a different animal. I think it provides a game plan advantage for us. But at the end of the day, it comes down to our ability to execute and really operate at a high level with consistency. So I think it provides something, but how much, time will tell.
Next up, Jeremy Birmingham with Letterman Row and Colin Hass-Hill on deck. Jeremy?
Hey, Brian, I know you guys are probably getting sick of hearing and being asked about the freshman class, but there's 4 guys that all enrolled early that had their spring kind of taken away from them. I'm curious if you would just be willing to break down where they're at now individually in their development, but especially with Mookie, since he missed his senior year at high school. How has he been impacted by the loss of development time?
Well, I'll start with Mookie. I think Mookie, is much further along than I even tell him and anticipated. He is removed from football from a senior year. He did play a lot of running back in high school, but his natural approach to receiver play, and it's funny, we'll do some drills sometimes and I'll be coaching up on it, and it might not be quite right, but then he'll just run out there and just do it, and it's perfect. So it's funny, his natural ability to just play football and feel space, and he does things that you really can't even coach. So I think Mookie's doing a phenomenal job. I think that you're kind of hitting on it. Where is each guy at, and what are they going to do, and what are they? The biggest thing that I try to have a conversation about with these athletes about is that it's okay to share goals, but don't think you're going to share paths. Everyone's going to have a different path. Everyone, different guys need different things, and to sit around and compare yourself to your peers, and most lights doesn't help you. It's not about what they're doing. It's about what you're doing, and understanding that our end goal can be the same, but the path in which I get there can be different, and not being frustrated. And social media is crazy, and the expectations, again, we could talk about expectations forever, but usually most times the expectations that are on you usually aren't given to yourself. Usually someone places them on you, and you allow them to be on you. So it's all those dynamics. They did lose a spring. At least they didn't lose it. They lost it maybe in a physical manner, being on the field. But we spent a lot of time on Zooms, and we tried to capitalize and maximize our time, being apart, and give us an opportunity to be with our families and focus on academics and really get prepared in a different light. That's basically how I think we took it. And I think at this point, I think we've done a really good job to set ourselves up for success. And now it just comes down to just maximizing the opportunities when they come to us.
Appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Yep.
Next up, Colin Hass-Hill from 11 Warriors and Tim May on deck. Colin?
Brian, I know that you talked a lot about, what some of the reasons why you want to put Garrett in the slot and give him some of that opportunity, but just given the way that you've used KJ Hill and Paris Campbell in recent years, was some of it also that you've just seen the amount of targets that they've been able to get from that position, and just imagining what Garrett can do with maybe increased opportunities out of that spot too?
I think everything was a part of the evaluation, but I think we pride ourselves on the ability to scheme up any play we want and have anybody in that position. But I think that having a dynamic person in there, I view Garrett as a dynamic player who can do lots of things. We can hand him off things on sweeps, and we can also have him go down the seam or run a corner. So I think that position more than anything is developing more and more into a wide receiver position. It is not necessarily maybe a hybrid kind of thing to it. It's really like you need to be a great wide receiver first. And I think that Garrett, again, being a smart, savvy, got a lot of good wiggle to him when it comes to releases and operating space. I think he's a great fit for that space. Chris Olave in there would be terrible. All right. But no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I think that, Garrett brings a different dynamic to that. And so we're excited to see watch it develop. Chris was standing beside me, by the way. That was a joke.
We're going to have one more set of questions for Coach Hartline, and then we're going to bring in Chris Olave next. Next up will be Tim May with the Tim May podcast and Letterman Row, and Mark Snyder will be the first to ask Chris Olave a question. Tim, you're up.
Appreciate it. 3 quickies, Brian. Number one, do you think doing all these Zooms is giving up people a propensity to look cross-eyed? What's your take on that?
I'm more confused by the fact that there's literally no one near me and I have a mask on.
Yeah.
And that's probably my biggest one. But, my understanding
called,
is,
yeah.
I'll keep myself.
That's
You don't
called
look
PR.
cross-eyed. It's good to see the inside of your car.
Thank you. It's my truck, actually. Thank you very
It's your
much.
truck? What kind of truck you got?
Tundra. I've been doing a little work. You know what I mean?
No, I don't.
Number two, you talked about this a little bit, but I was wondering, as the coach of this wide receiver core,
sure,
you've got different guys at different levels coming and going. The veterans, you got Jameson Williams, you'd like to see stepping up and stuff. How tough is that to kind of ride herd on that? I mean, to keep up where everybody is and where they could get to.
Yeah, I think, it is a dynamic. I mean, you're teaching guys at different levels, but I think that at the end of the day, if we hold a high standard and we ask them to meet that standard, these guys have they raised their ability, and we got to catch yourself on maybe saying, but he's this, but he's a young guy. If you give excuses, they fall to that, and I think that we'll never apologize for holding a high standard, and I think that what we do a great job of is in the room. If my message isn't clear, Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, some of the older guys, will maybe put it in a language that I'm just missing the beat on, and they'll explain it to them in a way for them to understand it. So I think we do a great job working as a family and as a group. And I try to be spot on with the communication, but sometimes they help clear it up for me. And I think that's been really productive.
And one other thing, how much is the competition in that room? It appears to be a deep room. Do you agree with that? And then number two, how much is that helping bring some guys along maybe faster than in normal circumstances?
Well, there's many dynamics to that, and I agree with it wholeheartedly. To me, it was always the mindset of, if I want to make more money, I'm going to surround myself with people that make more money than me. If I want to be smarter, I'm going to hang out with smarter people. So if I want to be the best football player I can be, especially a receiver, I want to be surrounded by some of the best receivers in the country. And I think that's been a big part of it all. I mean, at the end of the day, these guys, they do have goals, but nearsighted goals is, I want to start at Ohio State. And if it's easy to do so, from day to day, week to week, how really hard do you have to go to kind of achieve that goal? And then, so it's just a battle, I would say, day in and day out of just, friendly competition side by side. Again, and not everybody's great at everything, but there's somebody in this room that can do something I don't do. If I can learn from that, I can add that to my game. And what I will tell you too is that we have some non-scholarship athletes that do some really, really good things. And there's probably nothing more uncomfortable than, being, quote unquote this or that, and then seeing a non-scholarship athlete go out there and ball out and realize you better freaking get your butt going too. So there's lots of dynamics. They learn from each other. And I think that from a day-to-day standpoint, we have great competition, both, across from us, but also in our room.
Is CJ helping you, by the way, this year? I mean, CJ Saunders, or
CJ is helping the Buckeyes. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Coach, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. Have a great practice today. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jerry.